Father, thank you again for this Shabbat. Thank you for all the words that are spoken in your name today, Yahweh, that they are honoring and glorifying to you. Thank you for transforming us and preparing our hearts. As Michelle said, that this is Shabbat Gadol. Father, it is a great Shabbat, and it's one that, Abba, I know you want to do a great work here today. So, Father, just open up our hearts and minds. I'm going to pray right now, Yahweh, that any spirit of distraction or of deflection, Yeshua, that be gone, Father, that we would get real with you. We'd be one-on-one with you right now, Father. Any other area that would want to take our peace today, Father, and keep our minds numb, I just ask that you would penetrate that. And I just thank you for removing any confusion and any twisting, Father. Help us to be clear of mind. In your name, Yeshua. Amen. Okay. Oh, sorry. Go ahead and please be seated. Thank you for your prayer too, Tony, over our household, and that means a lot. Thank you. We've been going through some stuff. So starting. Don't get too close. I don't know why I said that. No, you can get close. I have titled this portion today, or this sermon, the second Exodus, or as we often refer to as the greater Exodus. But I don't know why. God just started putting seconds in my head, and I just started thinking about the second of things, and even having that second Passover. And but what that really means, because that first Passover, they had to come out of Egypt, right? They really at that point, they were almost like God made it so easy for them at that point. What did they have left there? I mean, he had decimated everything, so they really didn't have much left anyway. And he's like, hey, you want to stay in this horrible place, or do you want to come to a land of milk and honey? So he kind of drew them out in that sense. But what about the second year? They had to keep Passover, right? Again. And it was different this time. This time they had to really want to do it. They had to do it themselves. They had to, not that they didn't do it before on their own, but they had to rouse themselves that time to do it. And I think that that's part of what that second was, is that we sometimes get into a stupor and we have to rouse ourselves out of it. Just as Tony said, there's times that we're dry and parched, and sometimes we're hungry and thirsty because we have been dry and parched, but then he rouses us again. But that second Exodus really is more about coming out of ourselves, coming out of who we are. Because coming out of Egypt, that was the physical part, but then after that, they had to come out of who they were. And that is not an easy thing to do. Yes. So second chances. These are the do-overs in life. Sometimes we're eager for these opportunities to start again, right? I think of, not that I wanted to ever have a second, go through a divorce and have a second marriage, but but thankfully God gave me a new marriage. But being able to just do your wedding over, all the things you didn't do right the first time, or that you regret, or or just whatever, that was kind of exciting because we got to do it again, and I felt like we did it really well the second time, and we got to actually interact with people and enjoy the time with them and during the reception. But then there's sometimes we find that the wind is still knocked out of us, and we don't want to do it. We don't want to go through something again. It's like, oh, I am down on the floor. I've melted into the floor, and now you're telling me I got to pick myself back up again and start over. Those are the seconds, though, that God's in those too. And those are the times he gives us opportunity to grow and to mature and to come to a deeper revelation of who he is in our lives, if we'll get up off the floor. So, some of these seconds, we have second Passover. Who knew that there's a second Passover? And I don't just mean the second year, but I mean the one that comes in the second month. There's a second first fruits. What? There's a second Exodus, which I've mentioned already. And then there's the lesser known second breakfast. We've had one second breakfast, yes. What about second breakfast? Okay. Yes, and 11 season, yes. Often have lots of second things in our house, too. We have a bunch of hobbits. We are hobbits. So why does Yahweh give us a second Passover? There's a few reasons why. And I think that we can probably identify with these. And even if we've never done one, we can still identify. So in Numbers 9, chapter 9, verses 6 through 14, it explains when that happens. However, there were some men who could not celebrate Passover because of being defiled by a dead body. So they came to Moses and Aaron on that same day, and these men said to him, "We've become unclean because of a dead man's body. Why should we be kept from presenting the offering of Yahweh at the appointed time with the rest of Bnei Israel, the children of Israel?" So Moses answered them, "Wait, and let me ask God about that, and see what he commands concerning you." So Yahweh spoke to Moses, saying, "Say to Bnei Israel, saying, if any man, whether you or your descendants, becomes unclean because of a dead body, or is away on a long journey, he may yet observe Yahweh's Passover. They are to celebrate it at twilight on the 14th day of the second month. With matzo and bitter herbs they are to eat it. They are not to leave any of it till morning or break any bones. When they celebrate Passover, they are to observe all its regulations." So it's the same. It's just a month later. "But the person who is clean and not away on a journey, yet neglects to celebrate Passover, that soul shall be cut off from his people, because that person did not present Yahweh's offering at the appointed time. That man will bear his sin. And if an outsider living among you would celebrate Passover to Yahweh according to the requirement, so he should do. There will be for you the same regulation for the outsider and the native of the land." So it's the same Torah. It's just, are you willing to come into this Torah? That's the circumcising of the heart. That's the first step, at least. So it's interesting because we look at that, and I don't know that we readily identify with any of these, truly, that we've been dead, or that we were messing with a dead body or anything, or that we've been away on a long journey. But we've been in both, and we do both. We dabble in both. And I had some notes when I first came up here and totally forgot them. Okay, I can tell them later. So the dead body. This is the word nephesh. It's a breathing creature. But whenever anybody, let's say just someone in their close proximity or close family member died, they had to go and bury them. So they've touched a dead body. They're unclean for 7 days. So they are essentially not able to come in and participate in this. And you find that in Numbers 19:11. And then away on a long journey, that word is derek or derek. It's a road, or it can even mean a course or a course of life. So maybe a pathway that someone's been on for a while. But with each one of these, I was thinking, we have touched dead body. We have been a dead body. Does anybody feel kind of dead right now, or numb even to a degree? We have been apathetic. We have been, and some of us are right now, where we just feel like blah. Things aren't exciting. There's not happiness. There's not joy. And we just feel like, here we are, Lord. That's a dead body. It is. And the mercy of our God is that it's okay. He wants us to be a part. He wants us to come in and be a part of. This is why I didn't want to say, no more, can't invite any more to Passover. Okay? We might have people sitting in the back field, but they're welcome to come. No, I'm just kidding. We are, we've hit a pretty big max, but it's because the heart of our God, he would want us to gather. He wants that intimacy with us. He wants us to come together. So if you feel like you can identify with this, or that you've been embroiled in something that caused you some defilement, that brought death into your life, that's a dead body. It's another breathing creature, but it's not the breath of life that God's put into us. And he wants us to. So we take some time, and we're unclean for 7 days. But God's going to show us. God's going to show us today how we come out of this. If we've been away on a long journey, how many of us, Torah is new? We didn't grow up with Torah. How about that? Okay? We were on a long journey away, weren't we? And God's brought us back to this. This is our coming back, participating in Passover. But even that, sometimes we take detours. Sometimes we are in Torah, and we still decide that we're going down a different course of life. We're going to try something else for a while because you know what? We got hurt. Something knocked the wind out of us. And maybe we do, I think some of us still, we can even be coming here. We can come here, we can go through the motions, we can bring even our own egg, we can sit there, we can smile, we can still be dead inside. Or we can still be on a different pathway in our brains and our minds. And I was so on fire about this sermon, and I talked with Marilyn for a good hour yesterday over things that God just was sparking things in both of us, but I knew God said to call her about some stuff. And I felt like this is so important because this is the heart. This is the heart-mind connection that only God can get in there. It's on me. I feel like I'm interceding for people in here, and it's heavy. But I can't change you. I can only encourage you. I can be a coach, and I can prod, and I'm a good coach. I know how to prod. I know how to kick your butt. And I know how to say, yeah, that's a lame excuse, okay? But only you can get in there with God, and you have to decide that you want to step up into that. Last week, we talked about the 3%. And I'm sorry, I know it was cringy. But I want you guys to put your right thumb up like this. You can do your left if it's easier. Now touch your right forefinger. Now go like this. Okay? That's our 3%, okay? We are that 3% that says, Yahweh, come into that deepest part of me that I've been away on a long journey. Come into that deepest part of me where there's some death. And I want you to deal with that in my life. Because the 3% are the ones that are willing to lead the revolution. They're the ones that are willing to step up and say, no more of this. I don't want this in my life. I want healing. I know God's healed my body, my emotions, my hormones, but I have to step into that healing, and I have to do the steps. I got to follow the instruction. Right now, I'm being told I have a 5-month plan in front of me. Okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to walk in it. I have never felt like this is for me. I have never felt like, oh, well, you're just getting older. That's how it is. There is something in me, 3% little alien inside me, I guess, that has always just said, no way, man. No way. How many of you identify with that? Where you just feel like this is not how it is for me. Keep seeking answers. Keep pursuing God in these matters. Keep. Oh, my mic. Oh, it is. Yeah. Okay. I don't know. I'll just put it closer. Oh. Oh. Okay. All right. I don't know. Lukewarm. Yeah. It's also a dead body. But let's talk about our second first fruit for a minute. Because we're going to get to solutions too, don't worry. But our second first fruit, first of all, we need to know when was the first fruit. Because I sent out a letter this last week that explained some things, that talked about Passover, and it's more just, I just want these things on your radar. Because I know for me, when you first come into Torah, and heck, 20 years into Torah, and I'm still like, oh God, when is that? Oh gosh, that's coming up, that's suddenly tomorrow. Or Wednesday, for instance, Passover. And it's cool because I don't know if anybody else has realized, but our corporate Passover here is on first fruits. How cool is that? Because if you think of the time of Yeshua, when they brought the lamb in, it would have been a Wednesday afternoon that they brought they would have had, that's when they would have slaughtered the lamb. They would have had the lamb prior to that. 4 days before, where they bring them in, they inspect, they make sure they're all good to go, and they would have brought it in, and what they the time from when he was sacrificed, 3 days and 3 nights, right? I have to always think through this. I know it's right, but I just have to say it correctly. They had night started, or their day started at sundown. Lord, help me speak clearly. It started at sundown, so they would have brought him in. He would have died on Wednesday night. So then you have Thursday as your first full day. So you have Wednesday night, and you have to Thursday night. That's day 1. Then you have Thursday night to Friday night. That's day 2. And then Friday night to Saturday, that's day 3. That's day 3. Day 3. Okay. That's day 3. And he would have risen on day 3, at the end of day 3. And when they went to the tomb early Sunday morning, it was already empty. Because he rose on Sabbath, because that's his appointed feast day. That's his time. That was always his time. It's always his time to do things on his days. That's why he gave us those blood moons all on his feast days. I can't remember how many years ago that was, and we have more coming. Yeah, but they were on his feast days. But it points to him. And that is, he was that first fruit, because he is the first fruit to raise from the dead. So the OG first fruit, 1 Corinthians 15. But now Messiah has been raised from the dead, the first fruits of those who have fallen asleep. For since death came through a man, the resurrection of the dead also has come through a man. For as is in Adam, all die, so also in Messiah will all be made alive. But each in its own order, Messiah the firstfruits, then at his coming, those who belong to Messiah. So we have the original first fruit, and then we are the other first fruits. Because we are that first fruit. Some of us are first in our family. Some of us are just first to say, I'm going to walk in your Torah. That is a first fruit offering. And I know we've talked about this before, and what really hit me last year was the first fruit. The barley harvest is what we're looking at right now. We're looking to see if it's going to be ripe. We're looking to see, and Michelle told me the other day, they said in Israel, it's not ripe. So they're going to wait. No, they're still going to have Passover. But, you know what? Even if it's not, we know our God's faithful. We know he's going to bring a good harvest. And what does barley do? Barley's a cleanser. If you've ever eaten enough of it, you know what I mean. Okay? Barley is a cleanser. And it is so you're looking at that first fruit and you're saying, it's not the whole crop is ready. You're only looking at a portion of it. And you're saying, you know what? It's going to be a good harvest. I'm going to trust you, God, for what you're doing right now. Yeah, I feel like a dead body. I feel like this is foreign. I've been on a long journey, and I'm basically coming back to this. But you know what? I am going to trust you. That's my first fruit offering. I trust you that you're going to do a good thing in my body right now. You're going to heal these areas of infection and broken bones or hormones or things that aren't working right, you know? Systems, bodily systems that should be working right. That second first fruit, it's not just us, it's our faith, it's our walk of faith. And it's also what we bring at Shavuot, because there is a second harvest there. There's the wheat harvest that comes, and we bring the first of that to Shavuot. We bring that in our basket, and we say, here's our tiny little whatever that just grew, my little baby broccoli that came up, you know, or because we don't get tomatoes yet. But whatever little thing you have of that harvest, you're bringing to Shavuot too. And that is the betrothal time. And Pastor Curtis is going to do a great job today teaching on Sabbath and the feast days out in the edition later. And even if you didn't come to that first class, you are welcome to still join. We'll just have fun with our copier and print more copies of the lesson. But let me move on here. We also have a second Exodus. And that can be used in so many ways. There's several different second Exoduses that we can look at, and I already explained a few of those. But this greater Exodus, this is the calling, this is the returning of God's people back to him, back to Torah, back to the land, back to his ways, restoring Torah to his people that have been called and set apart. and called before the foundations of the earth. You know, I came across some of Pastor Matt's teachings from Passover 4 years ago, actually. And he said Passover now is not about salvation. And maybe for some it is. For us that already walk with God, it's not about our salvation. It's about remembering his restoration of us. Remembering that he restored us to our roots. That's why we do Passover every year. So that we remember and we say, thank you for this amazing thing. Why the heck would we do Resurrection Day every year? It's the same reason, because we're marking, we're thankful for what he's done for us. So yeah, we're memorializing it, exactly. But this greater exodus, I don't know if I shared this, and if I did, I'm sorry. But this vision God gave me when I first came into Torah, there was one of the two that he gave me. It might have been a dream, actually, but it was that, first of all, he said, get your passports. So I got my passport, and I got my 4 kids, our passports. So here we had, you know, we were like, I'm living like paycheck to paycheck, but we got our 5 passports and ready to go, Lord. I know you'll take us when it's ready, when it's time. For whatever reason, God said to get ready. You know, that was many years ago now. But you know what? He wants us to be ready in season and in out. And he wants us to be obedient. So we got our passports. And this dream that God gave me was this tidal wave of a flood, just a flood like this, a tidal wave that came up from America and just spilled over the shores of Israel. That was before I knew anything. That was literally like, I don't know, year 1 of Torah. What a remarkable vision. What a remarkable promise. I've never let go of that. I don't know how that happens. None of us do. I know many of us live with that same hope and expectancy, and none of us have a clue how it works. Because we walk by faith. But we put our hand to the plow where God has us right now. We're faithful. And we keep looking forward and we say, okay, Lord, I know that's my destiny. How do I get there? What do I do today to get me there? And he says, govern your homes, govern your lives, do it well. Do it well here, and I will continue to expand your tent pegs, and you're going to see overflow. You're going to see that greater exodus happening. So I'm going to show you, these are just some of the verses that prophesy this greater exodus. But I also want to relate this to you. I feel like I'm battling major brain fog this morning today. I really do. Yeah, thank you. But things that God is showing us is this greater exodus in us right now. The greater exodus that he is pulling out of us to do this Passover, to come into this time. That's what he wants to pull out of us right now. I'm not saying this is the only greater exodus. I'm saying this is one of them. That we come out of ourselves in a greater way this year, and we enter in, and we say, Yahweh, I expect great things. I'm looking at this first fruit. I'm expecting great things. Our kahal here, we are trained, ready. We are doing Passover. We're going to do it in our homes on Wednesday night because that's the practice. That is the rehearsal. And then we're going to come here having had it fresh under our belt, and we're going to come on Saturday, and we're going to be hosts for those that have never done it before, that have a drawing, that don't understand that I've always wanted to do it, but I'm coming here today, you know, and they might have bacon in their teeth. Who knows? Okay? But we're going to show them, and we're going to host, and we're going to be a bridge. We're going to bring them in. We're going to say, this is what it means to walk in your inheritance. And you know what? It doesn't here because your inheritance goes way over the banks of the Israeli border too, and beyond what those borders are too. But that's what this kahal is. That's our assignment. That's our purpose, is that we are trained up so that we can train others. And we are bridging into Israel. And that's our greater exodus because we are beginning to do it now. This was supposed to happen 3 years ago. It's happening now. It's been declared. It's happening now. Say amen. Amen. These are things God's restoring. These greater things, the second Passover, these things that got robbed 3 years ago, God's restoring now. And in one of our, when we prayed with our county commissioners on Monday, one of them said, I still don't get why people are so, what was it? They don't care for truth, but they're so asleep still. I'm like, yeah, it's left over from 2020. It's residual because we did this to everybody. And there were, and I spoke right to the heart of it, and I said, you guys start declaring that chapter in that season, that life is returning to these bones, that people care about truth again. People want to get involved and do things and just get out of their jammies, seriously. I at least try to do it for an hour a day. Get out of my jammies. And that's usually because someone comes to the door. That's right. City market, can go either way, but I'm kidding. Okay, sort of kidding, but I changed my shirt. I wear the same yoga jammy pants, but I changed my shirt, so there's that. Anyway, I'm going to read some of these verses because I want you to be filled with this promise today, because where you're at, where you need invigoration, hold to these, memorize these. Micah 4, 1 through 5 says, at the end of days, the mountain of Yahweh's house will be established as chief of the mountains and will be raised above the hills. Peoples will flow up to it. Then many nations will go and say, come, let us go up to the mountain of Yahweh. What is the mountain of Yahweh? It is his teaching and instruction. It is his Torah. People say, the nations say, let us return to Torah. We need instruction to the house of God of Jacob, and he will direct us in his ways, and we will walk in his paths. For Torah will go forth from Zion, and the word of Yahweh from Jerusalem. How many of us went to Israel and came back? Okay, maybe some of us left part of our hearts there, but I know we did. But we came back, and that word is going forth from us too. The word of Adonai from Jerusalem. He will judge between many peoples and decide for mighty nations far off. They will beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning shears. Nation will not lift up sword against nation, nor will they learn war. But each man will sit under one causing terror, for the mouth of Adonai Zebaot has spoken. What does Adonai Zebaot mean? I can use a handheld if I need. It is the Lord of armies. It is the Lord of armies that goes before and fights these things. He is the one. He said, walk around Jericho. Just use your mouth. I will bring down those walls. He's already doing it here. Though all the peoples will walk each in the name of his God, so we ourselves will walk in the name of Adonai Eloheinu forever and ever. Thank you. That verse right there really hit my heart. It's really cool. I'm just going to use this. It's easier. Okay. Though all the peoples will walk each in the name of his God. Sometimes we walk each in the name of our gods, right? I walk in the name of Wendi sometimes. That's sometimes my God. But I choose daily to walk in the name of Yahweh Eloheinu forever and ever. Yahweh, my God, forever and ever, because that is the only one God, the only God. We are becoming a new man. He is each year, each time, each Sabbath, each week. Each Sabbath, do you know that that's a new lesson for us? Each week, a 7-day cycle, it's something new. That's why we say, how was your week? We don't just say it here, we say it everywhere, right? How was your week? Because we just learned a new lesson that week. God just took us through something this week. If you're paying attention, sometimes you repeat those things, right?
But that process is that we would build on it each week, and that we are becoming one new man, grafted in to Yeshua, Jews and Gentiles alike, grafted into Yeshua. Isaiah 10:20, yet it will come about in that day that the remnant of Israel, those of the house of Jacob who escaped, will never again depend on the one who struck them down, but will depend upon Yahweh, the Holy One of Israel, in truth. Now, I think we look at this on a global scale, but now look at it. I'm going to read it again, and now look at it and speak to the death in your life. Speak to the derelict in your life, the one that is gone. I bet that word comes from derek, gone on their own pathway. It will come about today that the remnant of Israel, those of the house of Jacob who escaped, you will never again depend on the one who struck you down. You will never again be in bondage to these things that God's pulling out of you if you will rise up as that 3%, if you will do the things that he puts before you and walk in obedience. You will never be struck down again and depend on that one. But you will depend upon Yahweh, the Holy One of Israel, in truth. Speak these things over yourselves. You know the things I see in people that make a difference? They're disciplined. They're disciplined people. It's hard, I know. And I don't mean in every single area, but in the areas like this, where they're trying to make a change, they're disciplined. They start journaling. Journaling is important. I hate it too. I'm so bad at it. I haven't done it in a long time. But I know, and I keep hearing God telling me, there's a couple things he keeps nudging me to do. And one of them I know is a real stronghold. But I know these are the things that will make a difference in my life. But journal the success of your day. You don't have to take forever. Journal, hey, I messed up here, but I also succeeded here. And this is what I'm going to do tomorrow, God willing. That's it. What's the lesson he gave you for today? What's the manna he gave you for today? And don't gather more than you can. Don't get overwhelmed, because then it just turns to maggoty rot, right? Okay, that's also Hobbit, sorry. Luke 22:30, this is what he's taking us toward, just promise for you. You may eat and drink at my table in my kingdom, and you shall sit upon thrones judging the 12 tribes of Israel. Because the 12 tribes also represent the nations. So those that overcome, those that walk in covenant and overcome, we are going to be the judges. Not that that's something I super look forward to, but it means that you're going to have authority, you're going to have discernment, you're going to have the ability to judge clean from unclean. You're going to have, and I'm hoping we have a lot of that now too. And we gain more each week, right, with our Sabbath lessons. That we gain more of that discernment of what the priest also knew how to judge. It was clean from unclean. They knew about Sabbath and the feast days. They knew holy from common. And this is why we do this each week. It's why we come together in a community. It's why we learn to eat biblically, because these things, we choose God's food physically. He shows us, hey, that's food for you spiritually, and that's not food for you spiritually. So let me look back at my notes. There were two other things. I wanted to say, I received an amazing letter this week. Sorry, it just broke me now to say it. It was from one of the kids. And it's seriously, I don't know how long it had been in my mailbox, but I opened it last night when we were sitting there at the table, and it was hard because we were talking about some things that were that dredged up, like it just happened to dredge up things and rejection, comments from the past about my female pastorship, things like that just stung deep, because they were stupid too. They were stupid because they were not accurate. They were gossip that was shared. And it just stung. And I opened this up and I read this, and it said, "You are the best pastor. You have touched my heart. You have come alongside me and hugged me when I needed it." It really broke me, and I'm so thankful that you guys did that you thought of that. But thankful because this is a little girl, sorry I said who it was, sort of. This is a girl who just a few months ago was just struggling to even want to live on this earth. This is someone who is struggling with just wanting to just to say hi to people, be touched. And this transformation really just blessed me to see. So I'm so touched by that, and it really, the timing though, also it showed me God's heart. That he said, right now you need this. And I just knowing that that's for us. He does that for us. When we are having a really hard time, say, I need it, God, I need you. Show me. I'm starting to understand more when Moses said, show me your glory. It might have just been, gosh, show me your energy right now because I'm dying on the vine. It might have meant some of that. Show me your encouragement. Show me the hope that I need. Show me what it means to feel happiness and excitement. Give me vision again. Restore vision to this kahal, to this body. Restore vision to us again. Because there was vision and there was momentum, and it got cut short by the curses of this world. But no more. Restore it, God. Restore it to our pathways, to our families, to our homes, to our husbands and our children. Thank you, Abba. Amen. Thank you. Amen. Last week, we talked about Rak Hazak Amatz. Step into the promise. It's about being strengthened, but stepping into your destiny, stepping into your promise, and remembering that. And how do we do that? Okay, I promise we're getting there. I'm like an infomercial. If you just do this one thing and you add this one product to your food, you're going to be like perfect shape next week, okay? I will. You just hang on, okay? That's right. Let's go. We have an ad to go to now. There's a great video on Passover Michelle shared with me this last week, and I'm going to email it out. I want you guys to watch it. It's 40 minutes long. You can watch it at 1.5 speed if you don't have the time. I do that a lot. But, because one guy talks slow, but the others are fast, and they all have accents, so you might want to watch it at normal speed. It was incredible. The things that they drew out of Passover throughout, not just the Old Testament, but the New Testament, but they talked about in the Tanakh, too, in the prophets, and how they alluded to these things. And I know there's a lot more detail I'm forgetting. Is there any one thing? Okay. Yeah, but it was so life-giving and encouraging. So I'm going to send that link to you guys this week, and I hope you will watch it. But stepping into our promise, stepping into our destiny means walking out of Egypt. It means walking out of our old man, walking out of these areas. What's a pattern in your life that maybe you don't feel nudged, but what's a pattern in your life that just logically maybe I should check it? Because, anything that we do over and over, like let's say you're examining your diet, you're having some issue with your health. Typically, you'll say, well, did you add in anything new? Or what's something you do every single day? Oh, well, I do put like 5 tablespoons of sugar in my coffee, but I don't think that's it, because I hear coffee's good for you. Okay, so maybe that's what you start examining, these patterns, okay, these things that are habit, And it's so encouraging to me because I think when I am 70-something or whatever, when I'm the age of my parents, I hope to be like them in that they continually are learning and open, and they continually look at things. They're continually asking the Lord about things. They're never just curmudgeon. They're never just like, yeah, we're done. We got it, I know there's some areas, but but even that, if I go to them and I say, will you examine this? They have that humility of heart that they will. That's how we need to be. We need to always be like that till the day God takes us home. So we have work to do. We have destinies to fulfill. We can't stay in our stagnant patterns. We have to get unstuck. We have to know where we are going, though, too, right? I talked to someone this week, and she was like, I'm on fire for God, but I don't even know where I'm supposed to go next, what I'm supposed to do next. I said, yeah, that seems to be a common theme. So when you see a common theme, God's doing something there. We have to know where we're going. We have to stop being overwhelmed. We have to stop being afraid and worrying about the future. We have to stop overthinking everything. Okay? And we need vision again. So all of this is overwhelming. All of these things are like, oh my gosh, there's too much. But it starts with an offering. We have to bring an offering. And you know what? Passover, we are to bring a bigger offering. It's true. And I misspoke last week, and I said that the priest never ate the sin offering. It depended on the animal. And they also got to use the hide. But the rest of it got burned up. But depending on the animal, they did eat some of it. Because remember when Nadab and Abihu brought strange fire, and then Moses chided Aaron because he said, why aren't you eating the offering, the sin offering? So even in that, he still had, in the grief, the greatest grief I think any of us could imagine, he still had an obligation to God. We still have obligations to God, even in our suffering. Isn't that amazing? Our mountains are really more like molehills because we still have obligations. We can't just give up and die. I know you hear people that have gone through great loss and grief, and they say, thank God I had another child in the home that I had to get up and do things for. Otherwise, I wouldn't have made it. Thank God we have obligations as priests because we have to keep putting one foot in front of the other. We don't get the luxury of giving up, of melting into the carpet. If we want to have the blessings and we want to have new life and we want to have these amazing things, then we have to start with offering ourselves first. If we feel numb, we need to offer ourselves. The things that irritate us, we need to offer those up. The things that grieve us, we need to give them to God. We don't need to let them anchor us anymore. But bring an offering. And bring ourselves. Bring yourself expecting. But bring an offering too. So ask the Lord, what's my offering? What's the extra offering you want me to bring to Passover? And some of us, it might be extra money. I don't know. That's often a heart check for us, so it's probably a good one. Because if you're not willing, it might mean that you need to. Whatever it is, ask the Lord, but bring an offering and say, Yahweh, this is my memorial portion. Remember me. Remember me for this thing that I'm praying for. Remember me because I need you. Mark me. Mark me in this next season that you're going to do great things. Bring an offering, though. If you want a breakthrough, bring an offering. Look at this picture of the tabernacle in the wilderness. It's not exact, of course, but I think, and I'm going long today just a little bit. This is my last slide, but we're going to do something after this. So look at this slide, though, okay? This outer courtyard right there, right? So anyone could come into that outer courtyard. They could come into that white part, that white fenced part. They could come in, they could mill around, they could talk with their friends, they could even have their offering with them right there, and they could come in. Okay? I think there's a lot of us that are okay in that space. That we even look good. We brought our offering, it's right here. Did you see how nice this bowl is? It would be not as relaxed as that for sure, I guarantee it. Bowls are a pain in the butt to deal with. Anyway, but you could congregate right there, and you really wouldn't even have to do anything. You could leave and not even sacrifice your bowl if you wanted to. But then there's another step. There is the step of going to wash your hands, and that's the priest that got to do that. They washed their hands, and then they came and they helped the person slaughter that bull. They didn't do it for them. The person had to slit the throat, and then the priest helped them with that. And that was the next step. That's an offering. That's how you approach our holy God. If you want to have intimacy, you want to have, what is it that, I know Pastor Curtis talked about this a lot. You think about that Ark of the Covenant, there would have been blood and just grody-ness all over it. It would have stunk to high heaven. In fact, it stunk so bad it would have been stank, okay, because of all the blood on it. Yet, whatever about God, whatever holiness about God, zapped it clean. He had his own ozonator, okay? He zapped it clean. That's how it is when we draw near to God. He zaps us clean. That's why it's hard. That's why it hurts, too. And just as Tony said, it is like putting that coal to your mouth. It burns, but it burns away what it needs to. And then to go into that inner courtyard, you know, and Jerry did a great job talking about just the 3 or 4 items that were in there. Thank you for praying for my brain fog. I feel clear of mind again. Going into that inner courtyard, though, there was only those few elements, and they all pointed to Yeshua. And then that one time a year, that high priest could go into that holiest of places, that intimacy, that oneness with God, the Ark of the Covenant. And thank God we have Yeshua, because he ripped that veil down. We can go into that intimacy any day of the year now that we want. But it starts with an offering. And if you want that intimacy, you will bring your greatest offering. You want that breakthrough? Bring your greatest offering. Next week's Torah portion is Passover, okay? That's what we're doing this week, is Pesach. But I want us to take some time right now, and I'm going to ask, and there's enough room to do a little bit of social distancing in here, but I would like for us to be one-on-one. We're going to pray and play some music, but I really would like for you guys, for everybody in here, to get in your prayer closet right now. If you have a tallit, put it over you. If you have a hoodie, put it over you. Whatever it is, put it over you. I'm seeing miracles happen in my life. I know, because I can see them in the spirit. I can feel them. I know they're coming. I can see miracles coming in this hall. I feel it in my gut. And that's your second brain. If we're on seconds, that's your second brain right there. Okay? Because it's the gut, it's the brain that God speaks to. Anyway, I know these things are coming. And I know they're coming, and if you ever feel like you're too old, I didn't mean to look right at you, Mark, sorry. If you ever feel like, just kidding. That's because of Paonia. If you ever feel like it's just too late for you, whatever. I don't have the physical ability. I don't have the physical strength. I don't have the emotional capacity. Boy, I feel like that at times. I don't have the emotional capacity to take one more thing. My bucket's overflowing. If you feel like that, get alone with God and say, stretch me. Do the opposite, because in those moments, he says, get up and eat. He says, get up, give me an offering. Do the opposite of what feels comfortable to your flesh. Get up and worship me. You just lost your wife, get up and praise me. That's what it means to be in that 3%. Sorry to keep crying. It's just touching my heart. Thank you. So you have some music, Archie. I want to go back to a slide. You could just play it real low. It's that playlist. We talked about these last week, some reasons we don't draw near. I know that there's some of us that are still battling with anger and resentment toward God. And that is a big one, because it manifests in a lot of different ways. And we might think we're angry at people, but it's usually God behind it. So angry at God over circumstances, angry at God of my health, angry at God over whatever. And again, we need to take those back to God and say, forgive me. And here's my offering. So take a minute, go through some of these, but get close to him right now. And I'm going to pray us through toward the end of it. But right now, just get on your own. Actually, I'm going to pray right now, too. Father, thank you. Thank you that you are, you're doing a great work. And we can say a great miracle happened here. We're going to look back at this a year from now and say, thank you, Father, that you took us through this hard time, that you took us through whatever we're wrestling with. Father, fill us with your hope today. Remove these stumbling blocks. Show us these dead bodies, Father. Show us ways, if it's something we're battling in our health, show us ways to our healing. Father, I know that it doesn't end like this. So thank you that you are the God of hope and that you are continually putting these things before us. You're showing us how to get unstuck, Father. We give you these areas of feeling overwhelmed and feeling like we don't have time for everything in our lives. Father, we give you these and we ask that you forgive us for not prioritizing you, for doing and listening to all the things that aren't you first, Father. Forgive us for that. Thank you, Father.